Hello. Forgive me for the background noise as it interrupts this video. I will find better means in the future. This is the quietest place I can find in my poverty. All things come from emptiness, and all things go into emptiness. Emptiness is a continuum of emptiness. To conceptualize it is to say, can you imagine a sphere? And every inch, all the way down, is emptiness. For the scientifically minded at the Planck scale, all the way down is emptiness. And all the way outwards is emptiness. In an infinite continuum of emptiness. And any place of emptiness is the center of emptiness. All things unfold from emptiness. In a continuum of material things in every realm. And all things unfold into emptiness. In a continuum of material things in the continuum of emptiness. All realms are connected to the same emptiness unfolding, separated by distance, space-time, dimensions. An example of a separation would be a blip of non-existence. A blip of non-existence cannot be observed, but the nothingness that surrounds it, the philosophical nothingness, the absolute nothingness that surrounds it can be. At the edge of this nothingness, inside the void, you can see the continuum of emptiness. The continuum of emptiness as a whole looks like a sphere. And so the center of emptiness is emptiness itself, and emptiness is the whole. It is one whole thing. As you drift into the nothingness no longer becomes nothingness. You are the observer, and thus you have become the emptiness. On your way to non-existence, emptiness unfolds from a sphere, and the nothingness becomes the sphere again. You have drifted into another realm. Because as you find out, this continuum of emptiness is emptiness. In the continuum of emptiness, it is a reflection upon all emptiness. In all parts of emptiness of the continuum. And thus, the components of emptiness is reflection. The containers of information as well. All information is contained in the emptiness. All memory is contained in the emptiness. This is known as quantum memory and quantum information. All memory is saved in the emptiness. There are further components of emptiness. All emptiness is interconnected in itself. In the continuum of emptiness, and the continuum of emptiness is wholeness. In interconnectedness and wholeness, we have compassion upon the reflections of ourselves, being emptiness. And so, a reverberation, an emancipation, a realization is that from emptiness comes compassion. in totality. From compassion and another component of emptiness, wholeness, comes love. From information, wholeness, comes truth. All these components make the truth. And done is done of epistemology. In being, we are being. There is no permanent separate self. Self is selfless, is non-self. In the grand scheme of things, we all become emptiness, interconnectedness, experience of all these components underlays experience. And experience we are before awareness. From emptiness unfolds experience, which unfolds awareness. This is life, awareness. From awareness unfolds consciousness, the mind. We find ourselves where our bodies are a constant causality from evolution. Evolution of parts and material things, but also of consciousness. This is panpsychism. The unconscious made conscious. Where the parable the universe sought to experience itself comes true. It's just under-realized. And so when one destroys the illusion that is themselves, they become wisdom. The wisdom inherited by the emptiness. They become the components of emptiness. They become love. They become compassion and experience. When we fade into the emptiness, it is much like those who fall asleep. We may dream, or we may pass on to the next experience. This is what it means to be reborn. We observe someone who sleeps and wakes up. We observe our own sleep when our consciousness shuts down. The movie has stopped playing. Those who fear death are attached too much to themselves, and so they mourn the death of their ego. And so I mourned the death of a person, myself. But I rejoiced in the feelings of emptiness. I rejoice because I found truth, and I rejoice because I will not suffer. I will feel pain, but I will be experience. I will accept all that happens to me, and I will reject discompassion. All that are called worse sins are just acts of warped compassion or the rejection of compassion. Meaningfulness is the next stage of all the components of emptiness. Even unawareness or unconsciousness is meaningfulness, contained within emptiness in reflection, interconnectedness, information, and some bits of consciousness from unconsciousness contains the whole of meaning. Meaning is objective in and of itself. All that flutters on meaning might be subjective. Morality can be defined objectively, but not necessarily from meaningfulness. To sum up, objective morality is to place the role of consent. How one gives consent is subjective, but in giving consent, they are being objective. The givings of consent. The violations of consent are therefore immoral, unless to stop someone else's violation of consent. Thus, the basis for morality is built upon compassion for those in necessity of consent. Morality is objective. In all of causality, we have the appearance of determinism. In fact, by definition, in modern terms, you can call everything deterministic, material things. However, emptiness, while it contains material things and material forces of determinism, emptiness itself contains free will and its inevitable infinite potential. And its infinite potential, it has free will. It just needs to be away from the containments of matter or the contaminants. And thus, it's not a false dichotomy. True dichotomy. I have made an error and a mistake. And thus it's not a true dichotomy. It is a false dichotomy to declare that you can either have free will or determinism, but not both. In the containment of reality, you have both. The concept of either could not exist if either did not exist. So in the container of infinite potential is libertarian free will, the ultimate expression of free will. And in the container of emptiness is the world. And the world of causality, the ultimate expression of determinism. And with the container of the world beneath it all is emptiness, compatibilism. It is not only a false dichotomy, but the third suit follows, compatibilism. And the container of the material world beyond emptiness is the quantum realm. The quantum realm that builds the material world has within its containment the possibilities of compatibilism. Penrose points out how choice can be made from the future. And thus a being can choose from the future. No matter what conclusions the observer of an observing brain makes, because the observation can never truly be made because of the observer effect. And thus, in the container of the material world is compatibilism. Blips and acts of free will within the container of causality. Which is why the enlightened dismiss nihilism. Nihilism is a rejection of objective reality. I have phone calls. In the container of nihilism, one says a universal truth that there is no meaning while trying to convey meaning, and thus it self-detonates. They say there is no matters. Nothing objectively matters while stating an objective fact of matters. Self-detonating nihilism. And thus the only conclusion is objectively things matter. Objective matters must exist because the conclusion that nothing matters cannot exist. It is in the container of non-existence. Nihilism exists where nothing exists. And so I invite you to sever the fetters of desire and attain true happiness. Whatever you imagine it to be does not have to be what you imagine it to be. It is not walking, 10 hours a day in mindful meditation, and it is not meditating 4 to 5 hours a day, 1 hour a day, or even every day for 20 minutes. Once you sever the fetters, the reason you meditate is for meditation's sake alone. You do not have to meditate after you become enlightened, because wisdom is with you always. And thus explained all of causality, and not necessarily in perfection. All of these things, you understand them only in concept, but to become experience is to understand them in experience, which is true happiness and your true self, the not self. Experience unfolded from equilibrium, tranquility, the components of emptiness. And so completes my conclusion. The greatest wisdom of causality.